G'day and namaste YouTube. This is Felix from the ARTvsLIFE project, and today we're doing a very quick class because I'm shooting this on my phone about how to draw trees. This is number 2. This is about negative space and how to use it, and it's a very simple class, but I will be moving very quickly, so hopefully you can follow along. If you have any trouble with that, then just pause it and rewind the video. To do today's class, you'll need a blank piece of paper or a book, whatever you have at hand, a pencil and a rubber and or a eraser. So before we get started on the lesson today, I'll just take you really briefly through what positive and negative space is in case you haven't been to art school. These little bonsai paintings are a good example of it. The positive space would be the painted area and the negative space would be the unpainted areas in this particular picture. It's a little bit of a disputed term in the sense that positive and negative is a little bit of a yin-yang. You can't have one without the other. You need the contrast of both. However, this is a longer discussion that I'll have one of these days about positive and negative space. I tend to like to use the terms active or inactive spaces. However, just for the sake of argument, it's called positive and negative. So the areas where there is work would be the positive area, and the areas that are unworked would be called the negative area. That's just a really simple breakdown of what positive and negatives are when you're dealing with art and painting composition. So as I just said, this class will be using a pencil and an eraser and a piece of paper. So take your piece of paper, and the first thing you're going to do is divide it into thirds. So the bottom third and the top third, just do this very roughly. Doesn't need to be exact. We're going to use the bottom third today, and then divide it in half. So you have a line down the center and 2 lines running across the middle of the page. So that's a third and a half. Okay. Now firstly, what you're going to do is we're going to use the bottom third as our grounding space, and we're going to draw our tree right in the middle. So what I want you to do is to begin with just to draw large circles next to your center line. They don't have to be exactly the same size, or they don't have to be exactly perfect. You can use the bottom of a cup or something round if you would like to use that to trace off. However, just by hand is absolutely fine. Now put 2 larger circles down the bottom and start to work your way up to smaller circles at the top. Okay, once you've done a stack of circles like this, then what I want you to do is just to start to fill in the gap in between them, down to your bottom third. Okay, that gives you your trunk of your tree. What we're going to do is use the tops of the curves here as our branches. So once you've emphasized them a little bit, then grab your eraser and scrub away the bottom section of your curves. This is a really simple technique for coming up with some really nice art. You can be as geometric about this as you want, as precise as you want. However, if you look at trees in nature, they're rarely exactly perfect on both sides. So if you do the circles different sizes, that's actually probably to your benefit. You can then add smaller circles on the inside if you want to make these branches a little bit more playful or a little bit more detailed. And you can choose whichever section you would like. And just using circles is very easy because then you can just remove sections that you don't want out of that circle. And then you've got yourself your basic tree pattern. Of course, you can add foliage in whichever way you want. The foliage usually follows the tree trunk and the tree branches as a general rule. And that's a really quick way of coming up with a tree. It's a really excellent process for doing Christmas trees because you can make it quite geometric. Now, after you've had a play with that for a little while, there is another technique, another usage of this technique, which is a little bit more advanced. It's what you would use in a more illustrative sense, or probably a little bit more of a comic-y sense. It's what I call the Tim Burton-like trees. And this is, again, just using circles. I'll just focus on a branch for the moment because I want to make this class as quick as possible. So here we have a group of circles, fairly random. And again, I'm just going to go in between them and fill out some of these sections. Again, this is just a very quick example. I'm sure you could do better than this in your own time. And just following those circles along, you can very easily come up with some really interesting, twisty, horror show type branches. And again, you'll need to use your rubber or your eraser quite a lot in this particular class. It's a process of addition and subtraction. I'm drawing, of course, with a whiteboard marker, so it's a little bit dirtier than a pencil would be. However, I'm sure just from this quick little example, you can get the idea of how this works. It's a really, really simple technique, and you can make it as complicated as you want. And it's one that's used a lot by illustrators, and particularly, like I said, the cartoony horror type trees. That's a really good way of generating those. So again, I know that was a really quick class, and as I said, if it's a little bit too fast for you, then please pause the video and rewind. Have a play with this technique. You can do a lot of interesting trees just with it, and it's a process of addition and subtraction, so you can make your spheres or your negative space any shape that you want. Just remember to look at trees and look at how they actually work, and that will really help you in your tree drawing. So thanks everybody, thanks for watching, and remember, like and subscribe and comment and sub me. And you can also, of course, follow me on Instagram, and that's the way to get hold of my art, which is, of course, completely free. So thanks everybody, and I'll see you later. Bye, YouTube.